While war negotiations with Iran completely collapse, of course, thanks to Israel's bloodthirst for regional domination, Donald Trump is being quietly shipped off, against his will, to beautiful Camp David. Doesn't sound too bad, but it is for Donald Trump. I want you to understand, he absolutely hates Camp David. He does not want to go at all. And in case you don't know, Camp David is a rustic mountain compound in Maryland with cabins named after trees, gorgeous, gorgeous walking trails, and one single hole of golf. That's why Trump doesn't like it. It was designed by Franklin Roosevelt to be a simple, quiet, secure place for a president to think. So, of course, our thoughtless, insecure president, he's not a fan of it at all. He once said of Camp David is very rustic. It's nice. You'd like it. You know how long you'd like it? For about 30 minutes. In the past decade, Trump has only gone to Camp David one time. That is, until this weekend. And it's funny because Trump has no idea what to do with quiet. He physically cannot stand to be anywhere that he isn't allowed to bolt his name onto in 10-foot gold letters with a matching gold toilet. But he has to go because everything else is falling apart. The Iran talks just collapsed. The ceasefire is basically over. Gas prices, they're climbing as poll numbers are crashing. He's falling asleep in his own meeting still and visibly rotting in real time on camera. He's admitting things on live television he absolutely should not be admitting, and he's telling reporters that he doesn't care. He loves the inflation. So maybe, just maybe, this secret secure spot, it's a medical thing. Is there a possibility that this is a checkup we haven't been told about? Of course there is. Or it's the other thing. The one place in America specifically built for secret negotiations, what is it? It's Camp David, because there's a history you might not know. Camp David is where Israel does its deals with the U.S. It's where Carter brokered the literal Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt, and after 2 weeks of secret meetings, deal got done. That's what Camp David is actually famous for. When you want to make a Middle East deal in total secrecy with no press, no leaks, and no public, things that Donald Trump has struggled with lately, that is the room that you use. So with the Iran war falling apart and Israel clearly pulling the strings, you have to ask, who exactly is in those cabins this weekend, and what are they agreeing to that they don't want us to see? Meanwhile, the renovations to the Capitol are the funniest disaster imaginable. Donald Trump has spent $14 million of our tax dollars to rush paint the reflecting pool, and within days, it has turned into Morrow Lagoon with swampy green water and the brand new paint peeling off immediately. So instead of admitting his crappy, corrupt outsourced job failed, he is claiming that it was sabotage and vandalized by, get this, you won't be able to guess, radical left lunatics, of course. He literally just forced park police to arrest a 67-year-old Olympic canoeist who reached into the water during a bike ride and got detained for 5 hours. Instead of admitting defeat, he is draining the whole thing to do it over again for even more of your money. And by the way, you got to see this picture of the actual real-life contractor, the guy that Donald Trump is using to do the pool. This is not a joke. This is a real guy, a really weird guy. This is what a presidency in collapse actually looks like. A sundowning old man who hates the woods getting flown into the woods against his will on Father's Day to be kept away from the press, while the few adults left in the room, if there really even are any at this point, try to clean up a war he didn't think through. It's a grand display of extreme weakness and another example of the secrecy of this administration. What are they hiding? We don't know. What are they doing? They won't tell us. And we'll be unpacking it all today with three fantastic guests. Jennifer Welch and I will discuss the secret lovelessness of Donald Trump's marriage and mock Melania a little bit. You're really going to want to see that. I'll also be asking Senator Mark Warner about the threats to our elections that Bill Pulte poses as the acting director of national intelligence, and David Pakman is joining to discuss how terrified this administration is and why they are targeting independent media. Plus, and do stick around for this, we have a special Father's Day surprise interview you will really want to see. All of these guests, they're joining me and they're joining you And as always, it's happening right now on Sunday. Jennifer Welch, thank you so much for joining me on Sunday.
Jack, you are the only person I would show up for on a Sunday because I don't like to work on Sundays. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, would you show up to make fun of JD Vance on a Sunday, even if I wasn't there with you?
Like a Southern Baptist goes to church, I would always show up to make fun of JD Vance because it is America's favorite pastime.
It really is at this point, and Donald Trump's as well. He's made clear that he's willing to throw him under the bus. He already has, but I don't know if you've been paying attention. You covered JD Vance's appearance on The View, but he is on a larger book tour. Have you seen these stops so far?
I think I saw the New York Times stop, and I've seen some clips. I didn't know where he was. Of course, I've seen him on Fox, like co-hosting, gag.
It's embarrassing, and so much so, like, I guess he's plotting out his career. He's going to be the first administration official in Trump 2 to go from administration to Fox instead of Fox administration. But JD Vance is hawking his book right now. He was literally at a campaign stop in which he was like, well, this is on behalf of the administration. This is on behalf of a Republican, so I'm not technically allowed to talk about my book, but I'm going to do it anyways. But JD Vance's book is going over so poorly right now that you literally cannot leave reviews on Amazon. Like, you can't leave reviews on other websites. They're blocking people, the free speech administration this is, from commenting on the book. I just don't think it could have gotten any worse. But do you expect anything else from JD Vance?
No, we have to remember this is a person that changed his name 3 times as an adult. Like, Jack, it would be like you rolling out next week, this is the John Doe podcast. And then you changed it again. And then you changed it again. And then you changed your religion 3 times. But also, here's something that we don't talk about pertaining this book. And it's really the lead story, but we have all accepted so much corruption and double dealing, and the corporate media has accepted that he is enriching himself off of writing a book during the vice presidency. He is traveling on Air Force Two. All of these stops are taxpayer funded. These are not personally funded. And if Kamala Harris wrote a book, or if Joe Biden, when he was the vice president of Barack Obama, or let's even throw Dan Quayle in there, nobody would tolerate it. But the corruption is so massive that we get to the fact that the vice president is enriching himself over a pathological lying book to try to rebrand himself. That gets buried in the lead of everything because the corruption with these people is just staggering.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember one of like the big fake Biden scandals was, oh, in 2017, he made $10 million. How is that possible? It's like, well, he was a popular vice president who sold the book after leaving office, right? It was a scandal that Joe Biden got a book deal after being a popular vice president. So it's so funny. And you're right about the switch up. Like, that is all that JD Vance ever does, is just change to try to take advantage of the moment or ladder climb. And he's doing it right now, recognizing how unpopular the genocidal regime that is the Israeli government is. And he's kind of taking a different stance. He's telling Netanyahu, maybe you shouldn't be killing so many people, which is kind of crazy to me because JD Vance defended the killing of multiple Americans and doesn't care about innocents abroad. Have you observed this kind of change of tune from Vance?
Yeah, it's staggering because our mutual friend Hassan Piker got banned from going to the UK for saying something similar. And this is something that is getting a lot of bipartisan support, that Israel needs to stop killing civilians. Americans don't want to pay for it anymore. The problem with JD Vance and Trump et al. Doing this is, number one, they were completely obsequious to Benjamin Netanyahu during the genocide in Gaza, during the first days of displacing and carpet bombing and using white phosphorus on a civilian population in Lebanon. It's difficult when the Trump regime, who likes to kill Americans, as you mentioned, who wants to remove Black representation in Congress, for us to think that all of a sudden they care about civilian lives. Nobody cared when they were killing fishermen in the ocean. So my problem, there is an issue with anti-Semitism, and it's something we all have to be aware of. It incubates the most and lives the most in MAGA cultures. JD Vance is the guy who defended the Nazi group chats of young Republicans. And everything that this regime does, there's some money behind it. I read an article that why is Trump all of a sudden so concerned about Lebanon? He never gave a shit about Gaza. Why does he care all of a sudden about Lebanon? Well, his least favorite child, Tiffany Trump, her husband is her husband's dad is a billionaire, a Lebanese descent billionaire. So, these, you've heard whoever has Trump's ear most recently will say, where is what he says. Well, JD Vance has no credibility on any of this because he rolled out like a day or two ago and said that he thought that Donald Trump had the highest IQ of any president, that if you were to sit them all down and test them, that Donald Trump would score the highest. And Jack, what I say to that is, let's tee it up. Let's live stream it. Let's live stream it around the globe. Let's all do cognitive tests, get Obama, get Biden, get Clinton, throw in Hillary, throw in Kamala, throw in Pence, throw in Mother, for God's sake. And let's do IQ tests across the board. I don't trust anything they say. I don't trust any of their machinations. I don't trust any of their plotting because behind all of it, somebody's getting paid somewhere. That's what their whole thing is.
It really is always follow the money, which is why I'm really interested with what's going to happen between Trump and Netanyahu right now. Trump the other day posted that he holds all the cards and has complete control of whether or not Netanyahu gets reelected, and Trump has done nothing to push back against Israel continuing to violate the ceasefire, thus leading to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It's the reason that this war started and has continued, yet Donald Trump does nothing. But now we see Miriam Adelson, who owns the biggest newspaper in Israel, allowing it to say that Donald Trump is failing as president because he's allowing a potential deal. You see kind of some of the big money in the pro-Israel lobby or the Israel First mouthpieces in kind of the MAGA media, the Ben Shapiro's, the Mark Levins, they're pushing back against Trump. Do you think there is a possibility that, not having to do with like the morality of any of it, but Trump gets his feelings so hurt by Netanyahu that he turns on him? Like, do you think that is the only way that any of this kind of ends?
No, I think the one thing Trump is excellent at is self-preservation. And he knows the midterms are coming up. You've seen ICE recede. You've seen some changes in the administration. He knew we were facing economic calamity. He whistleblows because he's in his deathbed confession era. We were about to run out of oil. The economy was about to tank. What happens when you go into the midterms with a tanking economy? The opposing party, it's a tsunami of complete pendulum swing. They are trying to mitigate as best they can by gerrymandering. The Supreme Court is helping them. Red states, who knows if we're ever going to get good results, like in Texas and that senatorial race. But he is a self-preservationist first and foremost. And they look at the polling and they know that this Israel stuff is not popular on the left, right, or center. And it's interesting to me as it pertains to the Miriam Adelsons and the pro-Israel lobby. When you tell the American public that we need a safe place, we are a marginalized group, and we need protections, and then you go to the bigots for that protection, at some point the bigots are going to turn your knife on you. Biden did everything they wanted. Biden allowed a blank check for Bibi. He just wouldn't bomb Iran. And they betrayed that support, and they went and sought refuge with the bigots, with the people who browbeat immigrants, who are obsessed with the LGBTQ plus community, who are trying to dismantle women's rights. And to think that you're somehow going to be special and magical in a group of white supremacists, WASPs, it's just not going to happen. And I saw this coming all along, but they're finding out, just like the Latinos for Trump found out, just like the women for Trump are finding out. Everybody who goes to partner with this regime for protection is going to get effed as hard as imaginably possible. And that's what's happening here. And Trump is defaulting to self-preservation. And I don't think he is thinking much other than I cannot face the consequences of what is going to come in November.
Yeah, and he's been pretty open about that, and I think you perfectly termed her his deathbed confessions, which he just makes more and more recently what he's worried about. He said the other day that he was going to be the last Republican president, which to me is like, maybe
I hadn't heard that.
maybe yeah, man, burn it up, burn it all down.
Yeah.
Like I kind of am on that. Maybe it's just wishful thinking for me, but like I kind of do think that he's going to go out and try to burn it all down because he's fighting with the Senate right now. They're not happy about the deal. He's not happy that they won't give him the ballroom or give him the weaponization fund. I'm really feeling that. I'm liking that. I'm liking the fighting. It's really delicious.
Well, and think about it like this. He is never going to, in an organized manner, say, here is our MAGA platform. Here's all the work we've done. Here you go, Marco.
They didn't have one in
JD.
2024. They didn't have a platform in 2024.
He's
You're
never
so right.
going to pass the baton. He wants to be the last. He's not thinking about succession. He would rather burn it all down. Just like Nick Fuentes said, I'm going to go vote blue because I'm so mad at the Republican Party. Does Nick Fuentes hate Democrats? Yes, of course he does. These people are nihilists. They believe in nothing, but Trump believes in himself, and he would like to be the last Republican president. And that's, again, all of these Republicans, small government, independents, America first, patriots. They went to the most un-American piece of shit imaginable, and they sought refuge. And what is he going to do to them? He's going to screw them over. Self-preservation and screwing people over, that is his ethos. That's all it is.
Yeah, someone said the other day, like, there is no person that has ever engaged with Donald Trump who hasn't left unsatisfied and scammed and ripped off. And I know it's it's tough to say, like, it's coming, considering that we felt like 2015, you said this about John McCain, it's over. 2016, you got the Access Hollywood tape, it's over. Okay, Trump first impeachment, maybe it's over. January 6th, this has got to be over. Like Epstein, we've been saying that for a while. But like, what specifically right now do you think is turned in a way? Is it Epstein? Is it just like what's happening right now with Republicans that makes you think like, okay, maybe this is really the time where it does all start to fall apart?
Here's the thing. At this point, I expect Donald Trump to be exactly who he is and do exactly what he does every single day. He really exceeds my expectations. The new bisexuality stuff in his deathbed confession era, the incompetence, the replastering of the reflection pool, all of that stuff. I get it. I understand it. All of this could have ended and could end at any time if Senator Thune and little Moses Mike had a pair of balls, and they don't. And during the Watergate era, the Republicans believed in America. They believed in the Constitution. They believed in the rule of law. They believed in decency and integrity. They were conservatives. I wouldn't have voted for any of them, but they had character. This breed of Republican parties, Democrats must do brand damage. Donald Trump has shown the country who he is for 11 years now. All of our focus needs to be on doing reputational, decades-long brand damage to every single Republican that has refused to use their branch of government to check this criminal. He is a dirty cop surrounded by dirtier cops, and they are a criminal regime that commits crimes all the time. The Supreme Court is cooked. But Thune and little Moses Mike is what I call him, they could actually step up and do something, and they don't. And I don't know that I keep thinking, I've thought for 11 years, they're going to jump ship. They never do. So I have zero expectations that the Republicans are going to check him.
The only thing that makes me think maybe is the money, right? The money that's been there for Tucker Carlson to start shitting on Trump, the audience that's there for Marjorie Taylor Greene to do it. Maybe that's a possibility. I want to talk about Trump's bisexuality. I'm so glad that
it's
you
one of
brought
my
this
favorite
up.
subjects. Yeah.
So it's all about legs. It seems to be he's a male leg guy. He loves dudes' legs, but
Fighters.
He loves big, strong guys, oily guys. But this also comes as like there was in this reporting from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan that's detailing so much about Epstein, so much about Iran, so much about the inner White House conflict. Him and Melania do not sleep in the same room. What a surprise! They don't sleep in the same state. But Donald Trump has been stealing from her room. Like he's been taking all the gold. This is I have not seen a lot of people talking about this. Do you think that Trump and Melania, I don't want to get into like of it all. I don't want to have to picture that. But like, do you think this is the reason he's been coming around to guys more? Do you think it's just his loneliness and the struggles in the relationship?
You have to realize this. This is something that's super important. Melania got paid $40 million to do a piece of shit documentary, unwatchable, right? And in that documentary, nothing is done by accident. It's all intentional. It's all purposeful. This is what I want to project to the public that is my image. She went out of her way to let the American public know that she does not have sex with her husband. They said goodnight. He went one way to one bedroom. She went one way to another bedroom. America 10 years ago, if Michelle got $40 million while she was in office, that would be a scandal. But of course, nobody does anything with that. And then if she said goodnight, Barack, and she turned and she won it intentionally. That's by design. That's purposeful. That was left in. That wasn't edited out. It was staged accordingly. She wanted the public to know, I do not have sex with this man. And I think that if you look back to Trump's past, if you look to his mentor, Rory Cohn, who was homosexual, closeted for a very long time, very influential on Trump's life. I think the reason that MAGA men are so obsessed with the LGBTQ plus community is some of them are bisexual, some of them are closeted, because I can't even begin to tell you how many gay friends I have that do not talk about gay stuff like the Republicans do. I've never seen a man constantly, as Donald Trump, every time he's around somebody attractive, he seems to have a type. You know, think about Zoran, think about that UFC fighter, think about the Saudi print, all of them. He seems to have and he can't stop himself, because if you think back to like the times you visited an elderly person in the nursing home, they get really honest. They get in their deathbed confession era, and it would be like, oh, your grandmother would be like, oh, Jack, you know, I always loved you a lot more than I did your brother. You were my favorite.
Don't
right?
tell Joey that.
and this is what Trump is doing. He can't help himself because he's less inhibited. He knows his own mortality is coming into focus. And I don't think he and Melania have slept together for years, but she took in $40 million, and it wasn't to curate a traditional marriage. It wasn't to curate a traditional family. It did the exact opposite. And this is the kind of stuff and the type of fodder that the MAGA conservatives, like, you know, little Moses Mike, would have a heyday about. Ted Cruz would go bananas if Barack and Michelle did something like this. They don't even sleep. What kind of man doesn't sleep with his wife? And I don't know if maybe we should just start talking about that all the time. Seriously, I really think we should.
Like, we're probably going to get put on the enemies list, but like they're going after Tallarico right now because they say that like he looks like not manly. Like James Tallarico, I really like James Tallarico, so I don't want this to be like taken out of like the wrong context, but like he is not some like, you know, firebrand, like getting at, like he's not like trying to fucking change everything, and he's not like some revolutionary figure. He's a great politician and seems like a very nice, smart young guy who cares. And they're just trying to pretend like he's the worst person in the world because he's got a girlfriend and like likes broccoli every once in a while. It's
Here's
so
the
embarrassing.
problem. Here's the problem. I'm from that part of the country. Here's why they're investigating James Tallarico. James Tallarico exposes the fraudulent Christians within the Republican Party that weaponize their faith and preach a hellfire damnation, KKK style of Christianity. These Christians have a Jesus problem because Jesus is empathetic. James Tallarico reminds people in the Bible Belt, I use my faith to not judge people. Jesus Christ explicitly spoke out against the accumulation of wealth. It's not this 1%, it's, you know, the trans people, it's this 1%. And he exposes, and the Bible is explicit on this. Jesus did not like rich people. I'm not a Christian, but it is very explicit. They are trying to besmirch his character because it is a real threat that somewhere in the psyche of the Bible Belt Christian voter, there could be an awakening. Oh, yeah, we are supposed to be nicer. We are supposed to be kinder. Juxtapose that with the family values what's his name, Paxton, who is, would basically slap and tickle with a dead pig any chance he can get. He has all sorts of indiscretions. His wife divorced him for biblical reasons, and we all know what that means. He effed around, she found out, and turns, he effs around all the time. Fraud, stealing, all sorts of stuff, everything the Bible preaches against. So what do the MAGA regime is clinging on for dear life, because they got so much traction in the last election, pinning trans, less than 1% of the population, to Kamala. So they're clinging on to that for dear life, which I think is so important, why we don't throw that community under the bus. And I think it's so important that we highlight constantly that the gay obsessed, the trans obsessed, the bisexual president in chief, the call is coming from inside the house. There's a study they did, which communities consume the most trans porn. And they had a map of the United States of America. Much to my surprise, all of these uber red counties lit up like an intercontinental ballistic missile. And the number one leading consumer of trans porn is a place called Lawton, Oklahoma. I know Lawton, Oklahoma, because I'm from Oklahoma City. Lawton, Oklahoma is a military town. Redneck is all get out. A straight, white, Christian, God-fearing, MAGA flags in the back of the truck. Well, as a side hustle, they're all watching trans porn. And so this is something that James Tallarico's true, authentic Christianity is a real problem. And Texas keeps trending purple. It's on the precipice of going blue, and they are shitting bricks.
Yeah, and it makes me think about something that someone said recently, your point about like how clear it was in the Bible that Jesus hated rich people. There's also this idea that, oh, homosexuality is a sin, it's the worst thing, it's what we got to talk about all the time. Like I heard someone say like that, what you heard if you went into a church in the South 50 years ago is that they would be talking about abortion, they'd be talking about homosexuality, and they'd be talking about how much they love Israel. And that's all the same. That doesn't change. It was not the focus of the Bible. And you also have to think that if Jesus was constantly interacting with all sorts of people, then you would think that since we know people have been gay and humans and animals and everyone's been gay for thousands of years since the beginning of time, he might have bumped into a gay person or two. Never said anything about that, never really wanted to go on the record, always wanted to go on the record about how horrible the wealthy are. I want to close on this just because we're talking about how afraid the right is, and they should be. They're very terrified of you. They go after you a lot. Fox attacks you all the time. People are not nice to you. And you tell them to fuck off, and you don't really care. And you have written the fuck off of a book that I want you to tell us a little bit about.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So I wrote a book, you guys. It's called Not Today Fascist. It comes out October 6th, a month before the midterms. You can go to my Instagram profile. I've had it podcast, or my personal one, Ms. Welch, M-I-Z-Z Welch. I made that in 2009. I'm just never going to change it. Anyway, you can click
Shout
the
out
link.
to 2009.
It is what it is. And you can click the link and you can pre-order it. I talk about the link from my observations growing up an atheist in the Bible Belt. People ask me all the time, Jack, how do these Christians, how do they support Trump? And for me, I'm like, oh my God, he's exactly like an evangelical preacher.
Yes.
Slick, lying, obsessed with money, grifting, over the top gold embellishments. To me, it always made perfect sense that they all went to support him 85, 90%, the evangelical right-wing movement. Yeah. And so I kind of talk about that through line of fascism capturing a middle America, and it starts with authoritarian religion, authoritarian parenting, primes the psychological soil for authoritarian government.
Yeah, and I think right now you just have to hope waking up to it a little bit more. Independent media has been so important in that and showing people that they can actually combat it. And your show as well, no one is more independent, no one is more outspoken, no one is more, on the beat of Donald Trump and Melania Trump not having sex. We should be talking about this more. They're
all
going
the
to put
time.
us on a list, but it's okay. We'll be on the list together.
It's okay. I would wear the list as a badge of honor. I mean, we mustn't obey in advance. We
No.
must use our rights while we have them. You get to, as much as horrible as I thought that UFC fighter was and what he said on the White House property about Michelle Obama, which I condemn everything he said. It's a free country. They're showing us who they are. He gets to say that. I hate it. I think it's a poor taste, just weird as shit, hateful, racist, all the stuff. But he gets to say that. And we get to point out the fact that Melania intentionally says, I'm not fucking that guy. And I want everybody to know. And that's pretty interesting coming from the traditional family value people.
I think it's important to point out. I think we got to talk about this stuff. And you're right. Like, they do tell us who they are. And they also tell us who they are when they go after you, or they go after me, or they go after Hassan, whether it be Fox or the corporate Democrats. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep calling them out. And I so much appreciate you joining me on Sunday for the show. You are an inspiration to everybody. Everybody loves you. And I appreciate you, Jen, all the time so much.
Well, you know, you're a close personal friend of mine, so your viewers can know that. Jack and I are good friends. We talk on the phone, and that's the great thing for all of you that are watching, that watch left-wing independent media. We're all friends. We text each other, we support each other, and so it's beyond just what you all see on screen. So, Jack, thank you so much. Good luck with your Sunday show. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Go buy the book, people. Everyone go buy the book. Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Always so fantastic speaking with my good friend Jennifer Welch. And I'm going to say it again. I got to plug it again because Jen is the best. Do go out and purchase her book. Jen is fantastic. I love her show. I'm sure you do as well. And the book is going to be just as great with that signature Jennifer Welch charm and quick wit. And we got more to talk about, as we always do on Sunday. Senator Mark Warner is joining us to talk about something that's certainly not a laughing matter. That is the intelligence threats that Donald Trump may well be using to upend the midterms. We're going to cover it all with Senator Mark Warner. Senator Warner, thank you so much for joining me on Sunday.
Thank you so much.
I want to start with a story that I think has been a little undercovered in the national press right now, and that is just how bad Bill Pulte is and how dangerous he is. Donald Trump right now is trying to block a confirmation hearing for Jay Clayton as the next director of national intelligence, trying to extend the tenure of Bill Pulte. Can you speak to the unique way that he is a risk to both our national security, but also another under-discussed element of this all, our election security?
Well, remember that the Director of National Intelligence was set up, I believe, in 2004 in a law in the aftermath of 9/11. Its goal was to try to coordinate. We literally have 18 different intelligence agencies and provide that coordination role. In the law, it said, whoever this person is, got to have national security experience. And secondly, the law says, if for any reason the Director of National Intelligence leaves, the person who becomes acting is the number two. And in the case of the Director of National Intelligence, there is a career professional number two who I didn't vote for, but, would have met the criteria. I didn't think Trump could still surprise me this much. Bill Pulte was completely pulled out of thin air. Mr. Pulte, to our knowledge, does not even have a security clearance. Mr. Pulte, who is, he was in third generation in a mortgage company, and I believe was actually pushed out by the company. Mm-hmm. But his only thing that makes him popular with Donald Trump is he is a total loyalist to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And Bill Pulte was able to take a fairly benign job overseeing the Fannie and Freddie in the mortgage industry and literally take private information about Trump's enemies like Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve, or Adam Schiff, or Tish James, the New York Attorney General, and take that private mortgage information and try to weaponize it. Now, thank goodness the courts kind of turned him down when they tried to bring those cases. But, so this guy is a complete Trump toady, and he is now being rewarded with the potential to have exposure to all of our national security secrets. That is a huge risk. Even if he wasn't a Trump loyalist, he would be a huge risk because he doesn't have any background. It doesn't have any experience. It's a risk that he might share information inadvertently or on purpose. It is a risk that I hear from other Trump intelligence officials saying, oh my gosh, this is really awful. It's a risk I hear in terms of our allies not being willing to share intelligence. The way we share intelligence with allies is all based on trust. And, are they going to tell about their best spies to us if Bill Pulte can't keep a secret, at least, or doesn't seem to respect confidential information? So it's a bit of a disaster. I think Trump then acknowledged that maybe he had made a mistake a week ago and said, well, Pulte will just be acting for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. So Trump proposed a new individual, this guy, Jay Clayton, who I've known and I like, respect. I think many Democrats probably wouldn't have voted for him, but at least he has the experience. And I have tough questions for him about, for example, elections. In a remarkable move again, Donald Trump said he got pissed off that the Senate was actually moving to confirm his nominee, Jay Clayton, too quickly, which is insane. And so yesterday, with kind of like he jerked Mr. Clayton from being able to appear. So we don't know when he's going to appear, when he's going to come back. So we have now, starting tomorrow, starting Monday, we'll see Pulte show up at the DNI, and the damage he could do is incredible. And then just quickly on the elections issue, we've seen the previous director of national intelligence, who had huge issues with, Tulsi Gabbard, inappropriately use her job. Her job is to look at foreign threats. Her job is to look at foreigners, not domestic. She showed up when the FBI was raiding the ballot totals in Fulton County, Georgia, in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It was totally inappropriate, totally wrong. But my concern with Mr. Pulte, if he has no allegiance to the law or security, but only to Donald Trump, that he could take a fabricated piece of intelligence or a single piece of intelligence that may or may not be true, and that be used as an excuse to bring ICE at the polls or troops at the polls or, stop elections. Because again, Mr. Trump has made quite clear over the last number of months that, he still can't get over the fact he lost in 2020. And, he has said, I think I heard on one report 200 times that the only way he or the Republicans could lose in this fall is if there's cheating at the elections. Well, if you've got somebody who would feed into that false narrative potentially in Bill Pulte, that really goes to the heart of our election integrity as well.
And what is it? Of course, Tulsi Gabbard was raiding ballots. They're probably trying to kick people off of voter rolls. What is it specifically that worries you with regards to election security? Of course, ICE at the polls, these threats generally, but as it relates to Pulte, what is the specific worry, the action that he might be able to take?
He could claim, whether there is a source of intelligence or not, that China is going to do X. I don't think he'll claim Russia, because it seems like Mr. Trump also has this, bizarre affection for Vladimir Putin. Mm-hmm. But he could claim China. He could claim that there was Iran. He could claim that there might be a terrorist threat around polling stations. All is used as an excuse to try to shut down the election. So we don't know what the specific allegation might be. One of the things I've been working on is also getting former senior intelligence officials from both Democrat and Republican administrations that kind of say, if some of this funny business is pulled, that they will speak up and say, hold on here, where's the backstory? Where is the validation? Are you going to brief the so-called Gang of Eight, of which I'm a member, or are you just making this junk up?
Yeah, and it seems like that would be pretty plausible as what Donald Trump would want to do. He's communicated in the past about his interest in a war potentially stopping elections in the United States from happening. And given where the current polling stands, it seems like that's something that Donald Trump would be very interested in. And that's in large part because of his failed war on Iran. I want to talk about the supposed deal, or at least the memorandum of understanding that Donald Trump has signed. And, some in his mouthpieces in the media are trying to tout as the greatest thing ever. Most of them are actually pushing back. And it's very interesting to me, the select few who are really pushing back, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin. You said at the beginning of this war that there was no imminent threat to the United States, but only a supposed imminent threat that at least Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis were trying to say was being posed from Iran against Israel. And you said viewing that imminent threat to Israel as an imminent threat to the United States was completely uncharted territory. Now, since then, of course, we've seen Israel consistently, I would say, act against U.S. interest in ending this war by continuously violating ceasefires, international law. According to CNN right now, Israel is pushing media figures to try to pressure Donald Trump into either ending the deal or trying to create more favorable terms for Israel. In the past few months since the beginning of this war, how has your view of the U.S.-Israel relationship changed?
Well, I think it's been fractured. I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu thought he had this incredibly close tie with Donald Trump and that he could convince him to do most things. And, the one thing that is the case, and I think virtually everybody has learned this, at the end of the day, Donald Trump cares about one thing, and that's Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And, the fact that he is declaring victory after Iran, I'm glad he's ended the conflict. We don't need more soldiers killed. We don't need, we were not going to bomb the Iranians into submission. Obviously, the effect that it's had on the economy and gas prices, devastating. But there is, as good a salesman as Donald Trump is, there is no way that Donald Trump is going to convince anyone other than complete sycophants that America's better off now than they were at the end of February when he started his war of choice.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. And if you think that relationship is fractured, what are the steps that you think you and your colleagues in the Senate should take to change the nature of that relationship?
I think we have to hold, I think we need to sometimes separate the people of Israel from the Israeli government, just as I think, we asked, the rest of the world to sometimes separate the American people from the current American government in terms of Donald Trump. And I think, things like, trying to presume the idea that Israel should stop the war in Lebanon, if that actually happens, but I doubt it will. I think it also has been a huge mistake within Israel to simply become, where Israel used to be a bipartisan issue, where Israel and the Israeli government in particular has said, all right, we're just going to side entirely with the Republicans. We're going to side entirely with Donald Trump. We are not going to try to build a bipartisan sense of support for the right of Israel to exist. And I think that strategy, as we see this even further deterioration between Netanyahu and Trump, is not good long-term for Israel. And I think this was a conscious political decision that the prime minister made. And I think it's coming back to bite him.
Certainly, and the continuation of the strikes and the invasion of southern Lebanon has also been deeply damaging to the United States, and that it's prolonged this war. What are the powers that you think the Senate needs to be using to pressure Israel into stopping? Well, we just saw again more bombing of southern Lebanon. Don't Democratic senators need to be leading the charge on putting pressure on Israel to stop in the benefit of the United States?
I've been a longtime supporter of Israel, but I got to the breaking point on the last set of resolutions and voted for one of them to make sure that the settlers were not continuing to do, I think, outrageous things on the West Bank and to use, for example, bulldozers in southern Lebanon to destroy Lebanese homes. I think you will see more of that coming forward. And I do think that as someone who still very much believes Israel has a right to defend itself, they have made a strategic error by putting all their eggs in the basket of Donald Trump. And we will see how this continues to play out. Now, one of the things, it'll be interesting to see that one of the things of this condition of this so-called memorandum of understanding and the irony that Donald Trump signed it at Versailles, nobody must have been in history. There have been more bad treaties of Versailles over historical times than you can count. And the idea he didn't realize he was walking into like a historical precedent disaster is telling as well. But remember, part of this agreement is supposedly that Israel and Lebanon will stop fighting. And we'll see what the Trump administration does if that fighting doesn't stop.
Of course, the shift in public opinion against Israel, a dramatic shift, especially in the Democratic Party, has been certainly one of the talking points and one of the most important things that's happening in terms of a change in our party. I also think some legislation that you've been leading on with regards to data centers has been as well. You've seen huge opposition to not only the cost, but is this just a complete waste, the building of this infrastructure? You've moved forward legislation to make sure that Virginians aren't paying for the cost of these data centers. But would you also support legislation that Bernie Sanders is proposing to put a moratorium on the building of AI data centers?
I don't think moratorium is going to put the AI genie back in the bottle. We are going to be grappling with AI for the future. We've already seen, for example, one of the things that's not gotten much attention is one of the AI companies, Anthropic, actually shared with our government a new model called MeidasTouch that could break into all of our classified networks. We are entering into a realm of potentially even existential issues. My bill, though, was to say, all right, if you were going, there ought to be a federal standard that if you're going to build a data center, one, you got to get local approval. Two, you can't lie to the locality. You have to disclose what the terms are. And the data center shouldn't pass on any cost of electricity, water, backup power. It need to be set back from communities. And what we've not laid this out entirely. And what I would do is take away the data center and the tech companies' ability to claim accelerated depreciation on their taxes if they don't meet these standards. So you need both a requirement and you need a stick. And I think that is a good combination. There is a linkage between the use of tax benefits to build these. If you're taking those away, if you don't meet certain criteria. There are other ways. I know Bernie's got an effort to actually take equity in a lot of the AI companies. Actually OpenAI had even suggested that. I've not taken a position on that yet. I don't think that's the right way, but I want to think it through. There's also been efforts to say, well, let's charge a token tax because how AI measures their usage as tokens or how much electricity they're using. The challenge with that, those approaches, though, is what we don't want to do, since AI is not going to go back in the bottle, is to push American entities to using Chinese models that are open source and cheaper, because many of those Chinese models, I think, pose huge national security risk. This is an area that is extraordinarily complicated. The low-hanging fruit, though, is let's make sure that the data centers pay their fair share and the communities get to make that decision whether they want them or not. There are still parts of Virginia, for example, that want these data centers, but they sure as heck ought to know what they're getting into before they make those commitments.
I know you're very busy, so just one last question on this. Do you think the inevitability rhetoric kind of hurts the party as a whole and is just damaging to the idea that government can do these big things, saying that kind of AI is here, that the rhetoric around data centers that of course there is large opposition to, if we're saying that, it's kind of here and we have to deal with it rather than be leading on it? Do you think that's damaging?
Well, I think leading on putting responsible restrictions on data centers make an enormous amount of sense. Mm-hmm. But even if you had a national moratorium on data centers, the data centers will prop up across the border in Mexico or across the border in Canada. We have unfortunately, and this is just, I would argue with anybody on this, factually based, the models are moving ahead so quickly. And this will not be put back in the bottle. And there ought to be responsible sets of legislation on it. And sure as heck, the tech companies ought to be paying more. And we got to make sure that there is a transition for workers that are displaced. That's where I'm going to spend my time. I'm not, and as well, trying to make sure, because we have the reality of this already, before these new models are released, like the one I mentioned, MeidasTouch, or any others, there's got to be testing. We are talking about the possibility of some of these models making things so vulnerable that you could, I don't want to sound alarmist, but you could have planes fall out of the sky. You could have financial systems shut down. We are approaching points where we've got to have guardrails. And, we failed miserably on this with social media. I had bipartisan legislation for years. We can't fail again on AI without putting some guardrails in place.
I completely agree. And I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you as always. Take care.
A very important conversation with Senator Warner, and I am looking forward for a circling back sometime soon on that conversation around data centers. A lot to get into on that issue. I think I'm siding with Bernie though, but we'll be of course talking about that on this show and mine all the time, because that's what we should be doing in the independent media: asking questions, pushing back, demanding answers. And when you do that, you end up like David Pakman, on a list with the White House calling you a media offender. David and I talked all about that. I hope you enjoy. David Pakman, always great to be joined by an enemy of the state. Thank you so much for being here on Sunday.
Always good to talk to you.
Well, you've been sharing a lot about the targeting that the Trump administration is carrying out against yourself, other media offenders like Brian Tyler Cohen. But what was like the moment where you saw you were on the list? Did someone text you? Like, how did it all go down when did Kash Patel knock on the door and was like beady-eyed in your face?
No, it was very anticlimactic. I was just seeing what people were talking about on my subreddit, and someone posted very casually, "Hey, why is David on a White House list?" That's how I found out.
Well, shout out to the subreddit for holding it down. Like, was your first thought like, this is embarrassing for them, this is great for me? Like, obviously you never want to be an enemy of the state, even if it's like this terrible regime. Like, they send people to Nancy Pelosi's house, they beat down the Capitol. They're not going to like troll you on Twitter. This is like an inherently violent movement. Were you more like embarrassed for them? Were you worried at first? Like, what were the series of emotions?
I was feeling two things at the same time. So on the one hand, yes, these are violent people. These are nasty people. We all get death threats. We all kind of understand that. And so when this happens, or a couple months prior when Caroline Leavitt and Don Jr. retweeted Stephen Chung's attack on me, immediately that stuff goes up and the emails come in. And these are at least people willing to threaten violence very willy-nilly and sometimes do it. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is, though, hold on a second. Even reasonable people who disagree with me know the ugly history of government enemies lists. And we think about Putin, we think about Orban, we think about all these places. And so my instinct was, there's a lot of people who are about to come to my defense. And it has just been an outpouring of people saying, I agree with you and I'm coming to your defense. And even also, I disagree with you, but this is disgusting. And it's been flattering in a way, to be honest.
Well, who's the most shocking? Oh, they're defending me now. Interesting. Who's that been?
It's not well-known people. It's just people who write to me and go, listen, I've been listening to you for a while, not because I agree, but because I disagree. And I want to know what the opposition is saying. But this is an ugly thing. And this is beyond the pale, and this is anti-democratic. There's one profession that's protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and it's a free press, and you're part of that. And I appreciate hearing that from people.
Yeah, I think the First Amendment might be the most misunderstood thing discussed in our politics. People just like throw around free speech, it's under attack, I'm under attack, you're actually under attack. But for so long, the right has taken like social accountability for them saying slurs or having Nazi group chats or like making people uncomfortable at work as like Joe Biden descending down on their life and like trying to impose himself. That's what Trump is doing. Do you think that, like, I wonder if we haven't done enough on free speech? And by that, I mean, like, frame the right as whiny little babies using the power of this state. Like, do you think the party has done that enough? Like, I think like us and independent media are, but like, are Democrats doing enough?
No, I don't think so. And, you know, this goes even back to the COVID days where when platforms had terms and conditions and enforced them, you had all these MAGA people, Trump supporters going, First Amendment violations. It's like, hold on a second. The First Amendment has to do with the government. Twitter having terms of service has nothing to do with the First Amendment. However, then Trump swept in and tried to strong arm the platforms and say to them, you must publish COVID disinformation. And they celebrated that. But it's like, guys, that's what we're talking about. The government involved in compelling or restricting speech. I don't listen. Do I think Democrats have done enough? No. Is there enough that could even be done to get this into the thick skulls of some of these people? I don't know, because I don't think they want to see it, Jack, to a certain degree.
Yeah, and that's also the problem, like with being right, where when we're not defending, because like I don't think through any of this, you're like, I feel very strongly about the Meta corporation and I want to protect their right to do whatever it is. But like we are technically, although it is not true, but like in that sense, people see us as like aligned with the big social media companies. That's not true. I don't want to be on that side. Like that's just why I wonder. And I've had this conversation so much, like with attacks on colleges and attacks on reporters, Jimmy Kimmel to Stephen Colbert. Like I wonder how we do reframe it for the people with the thick and hollow thing going on in there.
I mean, I think the best thing we can do, I really do think, is use their language and values to show how they're actually on the wrong side and say, hey, listen, we are for liberty and freedom of speech and allowing people to get out what they want to get out. And a lot of that action, the stuff that we do, is protected by the First Amendment, and really just taking back the way they've tried to monopolize patriotism to mean you go along with any war that the president says. They've tried to take back that. We just need to take back that we are actually the defenders of allowing people to say what they want to say. And importantly, you got to this, you kind of alluded to this. Consequences to speech are also not violations of people's First Amendment rights. Speech can have consequences, and all of it is speech.
Yeah. I think that the example that we kind of on this that we just kind of flubbed not making a bigger deal was, remember in like 2020 or 2022, like that stretch when it was just the angriest white women in the world yelling at preschool and elementary school teachers about the books that they just like had in their classrooms. And it's like, for a teacher to like get books in the classroom, it's usually like them buying it. So they just like were attacking these people. And that more than anything was like trying to go after speech. I do think that like the book ban stuff, I don't know, maybe it's not the most compelling in a time in which like people just can't afford anything. So they're probably not worried about like the color purple, but I just wonder if there is a kind of sticky example. And are there others of these that you think of, like that we can find on the right, of like the sticky example and kind of day-to-day life of the annoying big government or, you know, big surveillance type, you know, rightoids who just like want to get involved in all that you have to say and think?
I think having those examples is sometimes one of the most effective things, where there's like a visceral, intuitive reaction to it. We should think of what more of those are. I mean, the other kind of depressing thing about the yelling at teachers is this is the Trumpian trend of actual experts don't know anything.
Yes.
And it was happening, remember, Jack, at the same time where Trump knew more than generals, Trump knew more than doctors, and every MAGA parent knew more than professional educators.
And JD knows more than the Pope. Yeah, it's like It's all of those things at the same time. Yeah, there is the weird like MAGA individualism when it is both like we're in the cult and we do what Donald Trump says, but also at the same time it's like we are like able to make decisions about everything for ourselves and we shouldn't have to listen to anyone except the one guy who has no idea what they're talking about. Like
That's
it is
exactly right.
It's just such a flawed way of thinking. I just do really struggle. Like, what are the other examples that we can find? I don't know. Or do you think that like they're doing enough work to erode the idea, even with the people that you say just like disagree with you and maybe listen to the show because they disagree with you? Do you think we should just like let them continue to shoot themselves in the foot, or like do we need to find these examples that are culturally salient?
I think it's important and useful to find them. And also a really good strategy for me when dealing with these people now for a long time is give them the rope they need to hang themselves and don't interrupt people when they're doing a good job screwing up their own arguments.
Yeah. How are you doing that right now with the White House? Just talking about it all the time, you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it seems as though what really triggered the White House to put me on this list of liberal lunatic media offenders was talking about Donald Trump's health, because that is what generated initially the retweets from Caroline Leavitt and Don Jr. against me. And that is what is cited on my page at whitehouse.gov. And so whatever you believe is going on with Trump's health, and I think part of the problem is we don't actually know, and we should know because this is the president of the United States, oldest president ever. I think continuing to talk about it, and listen, if they want to come and sue me for defamation, that opens them to discovery. That opens them to a whole bunch of problems that I can't imagine they're going to want to deal with.
Yeah, I want to let people behind the curtain a little bit real quick with like the discussion of Trump's health, because you and I were hanging out. It was like 2 months ago, White House correspondents, kind of party people that were in town, and we were talking about Trump's health. And I think, the problems have only exacerbated since then. He falls asleep more. He just looks sicker. He sounds sicker. It's all bad.
Can't walk in a straight line is a growing concern.
No, there was a lot of the back and forth. It's just like the general detachment from reality. I talked about this it was 2 days ago when Trump had to kind of like be directed by his handlers at a rally, and like presidents know exactly where to move. Like I remember Fox or some MAGA outlet ran a Joe Biden health scandal where there was like tape on the ground that said president stands here. But it's like they do that so the president is standing in the most effective and efficient place for him to move quickly and not be harmed. It's a safety thing, but Trump doesn't know where he is. But like the behind the curtain thing, I was asking you, like when you're talking on your show, because we think about the way that we want to talk about Trump's health, you're not just like, guy fell asleep, sleepy disaster over here. You want to frame it in the context of like, why does this matter? Because it matters and impacts us. What has been this is the result of Trump's deteriorating health for you that makes it so much more important than just a story about maybe the cover up or his health itself?
So there's the cover up, there's his health, there's the hypocrisy with how this was the most important thing when Joe Biden looked the wrong direction. And then meanwhile, they're taking a picture at the G7, everyone's looking this way, and Trump's hunched over like this, almost, catatonic. There's all that stuff, right? But there's reporting now that Iran has and continues to use what they describe as Trump's mental illness against him in the negotiations.
Yes.
This has national security implications. This has foreign policy implications. So like we can play the political games of like, remember when Biden supposedly was waving to no one? And then like when there was a wide shot, you were like, oh, he was waving to the people on the edge of the stage.
Yes.
That stuff is a big deal because of the hypocrisy. But there's national foreign policy implications here as well that I don't think are getting attention that they deserve.
And it's just like the level of weakness. And I think that's what so much of all of this comes back to for him personally, is like whether or not he's popular, whether or not he's like, let me float a conspiracy at you as we're, currently seeing the Strait of Hormuz open, closed. We're doing that same thing again. Trump was with Macron at the beginning of the G7. And he said when they were kind of wrapping up and a little bit of niceties, like, I would like it if you sent a military vessel to the Strait. Like, we're going to be open. It's all good. I'd like you to send a military vessel. That was one of two things for me. This is my little conspiracy. This is where I put the tinfoil hat on.
You always have some conspiracy you float, and I love it.
It is why this is the job a little bit. It's a little news, a little conspiracy, but it was two conspiracies. I think the first is a little like less crazy, which is Trump is still so hurt and sad and still feels so weak from the fact that nobody would let him, land our B-52s or our B-2s or any of our planes. You can't land at our air bases, and we're not sending military vessels. So he wanted to be like, well, no, they ultimately did, so you can't use that against me. I think that was part of it. The second thing is like, I think that he doesn't think the war is over, and he's just trying to dip everyone's hands in now when there's a bit of a moment of peace, right? There's a moment of it's kind of cooling down. Maybe things are okay. And I think he wants something to happen to another country so we can drag him in. Agree or disagree on that theory?
I think so. The first one assumes more careful forethought than I think Trump is capable of. So I'm not too sure on that first one. I do think, this has sort of been like Schrodinger's war in the sense that like, it's not a war when it's inconvenient for it to be a war. And it's a war when it helps Trump look strong, when he thinks he can say that he's winning a war, right? So it's like, choose it's Mad Libs. It is a war and it isn't a war. I think on some level, Trump knows like the 30th time you say we're almost there. And I know that we finally got the letter signed, but the letter triggers 60 days of negotiation. The best he can hope to get is a weaker version of Obama's nuclear deal. I do think he's incentivized to pull in anyone he can so that it muddies the water if there are failures as to who really failed, and it creates justifications for this thing not really ending during this negotiation period. I think it's an insurance policy.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you might be right about the fact that that's too much 4D chess for Donald Trump. I just think that I think he's like got his feelings deeply hurt right now by all the world leaders. Even Netanyahu, who, yesterday he posted an article that was like Trump holds all the cards for Netanyahu's chances at re-election, which is really funny because if he did, you might think that Trump would use that to get Israel to stop violating the ceasefire and the striking of southern Lebanon, and that Trump might use any of that leverage. He hasn't. And then you have the Maloney thing where he's like, she loves me. How much of this do you think is just like the personal relationship problem that Trump has? Like that he's just sad and he feels lonely?
A lot of it, I believe, is relational. And in fact, I think Trump's priorities right now, as he is potentially months from becoming a complete and total lame duck if Republicans lose the House, this is where his obsession with irreversible accomplishments comes in. Mm-hmm. He knows a lot of the things. Executive orders at the end of the day are memos. I would like you to do something. They don't implement anything in and of themselves. And so when you look at the trends, can we acquire more land? Greenland? What about Venezuela as the 51st state? Can we destroy part of the White House and build something different? A lot of these things are potentially less reversible. And so he's 80. He's got very limited time left in the Oval Office. I think he's thinking of what can I do that's not just going to be reversed by the next person right away. And that's where a lot of this is coming from. So I think it is sadness. It's concern with legacy. It's his polls are in the toilet. It's all of those things.
That's just so and again, going back to the health thing, it is so scary that decisions are being made with the thought of him dying, like in his own head, like that he is making decisions about himself dying. Because, we talk a lot, and I think this has been an increasing topic of conversation. Of course, our elected officials, the establishment, these people are out of touch, right? But as you have an increasingly older, geriatric Congress, and Bernie Sanders is 84 years old. Bernie Sanders is talking about, public ownership of AI. Bernie is on top of everything. It's not to say that you can't be 84 and thinking ahead, but that is a scary thought, isn't it? Just like how much of it is baked into his own mortality.
Very much so. And I spoke with Robert Reich the other day, who hilariously is 10 days younger than Trump. So I guess that means he's like a couple days from turning 80 right now.
And looks and sounds great.
He's so sharp. But he said something interesting, which is as good as he feels, he has the wherewithal to know he at 79 and 362 days would not be the ideal president simply because of what's required of the person. And Robert Reich has, as sharp as he has the wherewithal to go, I'm not at my peak right now. And Trump insists he's healthier than Obama was at age 47. And so there is this kind of delusional aspect to it as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it was made so much more profound when you saw Zoran running up and down the streets of New York, high-fiving people, hitting a lean back with Cat, he was hanging out and having a great time. And you're like, this is a young guy. Thank God. What was your takeaway? What was your takeaway after seeing the difference between, Trump melting down, Trump screaming, Trump upset, and then on posting wild shit on Truth Social on the same day that the Obamas are opening their library and Zoran is celebrating the Knicks? Were you thinking
the contrast is just crazy? Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy contrast to see it because I think a lot of people who are now following Trump, they're young enough that they don't necessarily remember what it was like to have Obama as president. They know Obama, right? They know Obama as the guy who used to be president. And I was pretty young when Obama came to power, but then at the end of Obama's 2 terms, I was already doing the show and whatnot. And it is an incredible contrast in so many ways. Obviously, the way that Barack Obama is able to synthesize ideas into language in a way that
into language, period.
but also just who showed up. Look at the UFC fight, right? F-list celebrities and whatnot. And look at the people that respect former President Obama and are supporting the launch of the Presidential Center. And it's a contrast in so many ways. And you're pointing out the difference in energy. And of course, that's part of it as well.
No, it certainly is. And I think it's something that people also feel with we opened our conversation talking about you being targeted, but it's what people feel with independent media, that there is something to it. I've said consistently, the gauge of how much you should trust someone right now is how upset they are, right? Is how angry they are, how outraged they are, and like displaying it and acting on it. And I think that's something that we've all done. You've channeled it obviously into your empire of a show. You also are out with a new book soon. I have
a new book, and you know what's so funny? During the release of my first book, which was now a little while ago, someone from within the Trump sphere tried to get Amazon not to sell my book. And my book was not the only one on this list. Brian Tyler Cohen's first book was on there. There was a list of about a dozen books, and Amazon did not play with that, and my book remained for sale. The second book that's coming out September 22nd, not only am I now on a list, which makes me more fearful that the book is going to be targeted, but the book is about how these social media algorithms can be manipulated and used by bad actors to promote bad ideas, which is quite literally the Trump 10 years of politics and how that worked. So we don't know what's going to happen with my publisher, with everybody. We're kind of strategizing, but the best thing people can do is just pre-order the book, which makes it less likely anybody's going to delist it. So check it out. It's davidpakman.com/attention. If people like audiobook, signed copy, whatever, it's available. But we're sort of like gearing up for what may be a legal fight around this book.
Well, then you got to get it, guys. You got to go and read. David Pakman out with a new book.
Listen,
speaking of Amazon, did you see that they're not allowing people to review JD Vance's book on Amazon? You can't leave reviews because it's getting hammered.
I did not know that. Yeah, there's been a bunch of these right-wing books where the reviews are terrible, and I'm not totally shocked that they're doing that.
No, it's not a surprise, but I think maybe we can have a little healthy competition, you and JD, so you can be
get the highest rating.
No, I was going to say moving more copies, right? He's using Air Force Two and our taxpayer dollars to go on his book tour. I don't think that any of the money that I paid in April is going to go to your book tour, although, I will get a copy. Hopefully we can get a signed copy over here.
Absolutely.
My friends
listen, and what's funny is JD's book tour hasn't gone that well. Like when he was on The View, did he convince anybody watching The View the way that went to buy a copy of that thing? I don't know.
No, and it was funny that some people had the takeaway. What was it? Was Joy was like, "Oh, I thought he was okay. I thought he was interesting. I thought it was fine." And that always kind of cracks me up when it's like, bad person, and then you meet them like, face to face, and it's like, "Oh, they weren't that bad." It's like they were putting on an act. It's like, yes, they are. They're bad people.
They're putting on an act. Some of them are very nice interpersonally. In other words, they're fine with systems discriminating against people, but they'll be perfectly nice to whoever they meet, but that doesn't mean they should be voted into power.
Which is almost worse. Like, I'd kind of rather, like, not that I liked the moment of the, disgusting UFC fighter attacking Michelle Obama, but I'm just like, there it is, America. Like you got the sloppy guy fucking he was spitting all over himself. I think that was a gag, but like before the fight, pretending that he was drunk. It's like, that's them. I really don't like the guys. I don't like I just wish we could be nice to each other. And maybe again, this is what you said about, I'm a person who grew up in the Trump era. Like, I want to know how bad you are. Don't put on the mask. But
I agree with that. And it reminds me of these usually Republicans who basically vote and advocate anti-LGBT rights for a long time. And then all of a sudden it's like, I changed my view because it turns out my niece is a lesbian or my son is gay. It's like, great that you revisited your views. And also, couldn't you just have put yourself in the position of someone? Like, why did it have to be personal for you to go, maybe I'm not advocating for the right things?
That's funny. That's an argument that you see with, not to hate on, and this is not me hating on my liberal guys out there, but sometimes you see the argument from liberal guys about women's rights issues. And it's like, imagine if that was your mom. Imagine if that was your sister. It's like, no, imagine if that was a person, right? with feelings and inherent value, because those are that's the value of the West, right? We talked about these inalienable rights. Like, wasn't that our whole thing? I don't know. We could go on forever, and we'll hopefully have you on again and again before that book comes out. Could we get one more plug, because Donald Trump does not want to?
It's davidpakman.com/attention. The physical copy, the signed copy, audiobook, Kindle, all that stuff is there.
Go get it. Read the book. It's going to be fantastic. And again, man, thank you so much for joining me on Sunday.
Thanks for having me.
Always great chatting with my friend David Pakman. And now, for our time-honored tradition on Sunday, the Idiot of the Week. And unfortunately, this week's idiot is somebody that I used to like. Actor Rainn Wilson, best known for his portrayal of Dwight Schrute on The Office, and then nothing else after that. So inevitably, in the last few years, Rainn has followed the grifting path of other washed-up stars by pivoting to commentary on the so-called culture war. And like every other dried-up hack, this week he went on Fox News to give one of the laziest, most tired takes imaginable.
I do feel like you couldn't make The Office today. I think that would be too hard to be as politically incorrect as the show was.
You couldn't make The Office today? Buddy, they are literally remaking The Office today, right now. It's called The Paper. It's set in the same exact universe, same mockumentary style, nearly all of the same types of jokes made by the same people, and it's airing its second season as we speak. Actually, in fact, if you turned on a TV at this exact moment, there's a real chance The Office itself is playing on like 3 different channels. It is the most streamed show in America. It outlived your career, Rainn, and now you're on Fox telling people it's been canceled by the woke libs. And it's not just The Office. Other edgy comedies are more popular than ever. Unfortunately, Kill Tony just got its own comedy special on Netflix, God help us all. But really great comedies that have a little bit of grit to them, they're crushing. Take a look at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's the longest running American live action sitcom, and it's entering its 18th season. South Park, still going strong. There's so many others that I can name. The "you couldn't make it today" take is the single most overused, really self-flattering line imaginable, delivered by people who aren't making anything today. And it's almost always nonsense. Dwight Schrute is literally trying to say, my thing was edgy and dangerous and brave, and the cowardly culture today could never hide a stapler in Jell-O. Like, what's so bad about that? Rainn, nothing is being censored. You are allowed to be as offensive as you want. Audiences just get to decide if it's funny or not. And that apparently to these people is tyranny. And by the way, this is a guy who has spent more energy in the last year praising Charlie Kirk and going on Fox to complain about liberal bias than actually working as an actor. He's figured out the grift. You take a beloved thing that everybody still loves, by the way. You stand on the biggest right-wing platform in the country and you tell a scared audience that the bad guys, they took it away from you. They're coming for The Office. You get people to feel something that they love has been stolen or is under attack by the blue-haired libs. They get angry, and the anger keeps the Fox News audience watching. And you get to be relevant again on the back of a show that made you relevant in the first place 20 years ago. And what have you done since? Nothing. I think he was like in the Meg. If you think you can't be funny anymore, Rainn, maybe the problem isn't the culture. Maybe it's you idiot of the week. But before we wrap up on this Sunday, I have to acknowledge that it is Father's Day. And so we're going to bring in one final guest, the most important guest on this show. Sorry, Bernie. My brother, Joey. Joe, I guess not happy Father's Day to you, unless there's something you haven't told me about you and your girlfriend.
Nothing yet, man. Nothing yet. No, none of that yet. But happy Father's Day to Dad for sure.
Happy Father's Day to our dad, Dave. I hope you're watching. If you're not, feelings hurt, and I rescind the Happy Father's Day. But I got some. This is an interview. I don't know if I prepped you on this, but this is an interview, so I have to ask: what is your favorite thing? And you're on the spot here. What is your favorite thing about our dad?
Gosh, man, that's a tough question, but I think the first thing that always comes to my mind is I feel like Dad's always been like a guiding light for us. When things are confusing and we have questions, we can always go to Dad. Dad can always lead us in the right direction. He's never being the anchor that's holding us back or even pushing us forward. He's always just showing us hey, head this direction and letting us learn on our own. So I really appreciate that about Dad. Definitely.
Always there for everybody. Always a lot of fun. Always easygoing. For those who don't know, and if everybody did, I'd be a little I'd be a little suspicious, but he is an outgoing guy. We have a joke in our family that if there's anything kind of going, there may be some little conflict, a little tension. There's always Dave is just like, who wants ice cream? Let's get the party started. Dad, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to you. Much love to the dads. Joe, not yet. You're still young. Just relax, okay? Actually, well, or maybe we need some more people on the right side of the fight. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I'm not going to tell you what to do because that would be weird because there are people watching right now. But I love you. I love you as well. Dad, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Joe, thank you for coming on Sunday. It's great. It was great having you. It was short but sweet.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Joe. Again, happy Father's Day. Dad, I love you. I hope you're having a great day. Sorry we're not spending it together. We will soon. You know you're my favorite guy to hang with. But I also want to say thank you to all of our other guests that are not my direct relatives. Although, Jennifer Welch and I we look a little bit alike, but, that's okay. Jen Welch, thank you so much. My dear friend, of course, David Pakman, Senator Mark Warner, Rainn Wilson, Idiot of the Week, not a guest. Didn't love you. So maybe not thank you to you. Maybe don't be the Idiot of the Week. But we are going to be back as we always are. Now, as we always are, 4 weeks in. 2 on Sunday. Last week, we had our biggest week ever, 800,000 views on average. We're doing more than 500,000 every week. I hope this one is the same because of you and because of my good friends at MeidasTouch, Brett, Ben, and Jordy. Thank you all so much for helping us put this show together. It has been a smash hit because of y'all, and it would go so far if you would share the show on Instagram, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, anywhere, and comment down below with any feedback or if you're enjoying. And as always, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the show, drop a blue heart in the comments, and of course, come back this time next week, and I'll be seeing you again on Sunday.